Today, I'm going to show you how to deploy containers on a NixOS machine. NixOS is a Linux distribution that offers immutable and declarative builds. It allows you to define a configuration for your machine and apply that to the host. This makes a ton of sense to me based on the way I view software. I like to see everything that's running on a machine all in one place. Now, as someone who likes to get things up and running quickly, I need a way to be able to package and bundle my software. I'm pretty handy with Docker and containers, and so that's why I choose this path when deploying my applications onto NixOS. So Nix has its own language for configuring machines. I guess it looks like Haskell. I only took one class of it in college. Basically forgot everything that it was about. But it's very powerful and allows you to do a lot of things. So the first thing we're going to start with is our Nix template. I'm going to be deploying this onto a virtual machine running in DigitalOcean. However, if you're running on your own hardware, the syntax will all be very similar, if not the same. So the first thing we're going to need to do is add a configuration called virtualization. And there we need to enable, I guess, like what virtualization engine we're going to run. In this case, we're doing OS level virtualization and we're going to use Podman. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to add a container for it to run. So within this virtualization block, we can drop in this tag called OCI, this configuration called OCI containers, and then another block here called containers. The full path to this would be virtualization, OCI containers, containers. And then we can go here and start defining what our application is. So this can be any name here. So I just call it my web application. And then, like any other container-based application, we need to give it an image. And so I have some sort of registry here, and then this is my full path to the Docker tag. You can get an image running like this. However, like me, you're probably going to have a little bit more complicated workflows to get it running the way you want. So the first thing I'm going to go over is being able to log into a private registry. And so when I run my applications, I generally push them to my own private registry where there needs to be some sort of login step or authentication step that takes place. And that's what this configuration option allows us to specify. So here we specify like the full URL of the registry, the username that's used to log in, and a file where the password is located in plain text. So what I'll usually do is on setup, I'll set up this file up, plop the password in here, and then you can just specify the path of the password text. I'm sure there's better ways of doing it, but this is for just getting it up and running quickly. Now, another important option that I usually define is setting some sort of environment variables in our container. So what that generally looks like is there's an option called environment, and then you can go ahead and write your environment variables as you would in this line by line format with a semicolon. So for example, a lot of my applications specify if it's in development or not. So for stuff running on the server, we want that to be false. We all dream of everything being stateless when we're running with containers. However, that's generally a pipe dream. So we need some sort of way to persist files on the host. We do that with the volumes, which is an option that you can specify. And so this is where the first entry before the semicolon is where the data is on the host machine, and then this is a location on the path of the container. And this is a directory, so if we want it to be a file, it would look something like this. So if we have we could specify like an SQLite just file, something like this. Got to make sure it exists on the host before specifying this, or you're going to run into some errors. Now, the last option I want to go over is ports. So when we're talking about web applications, we need some way to be able to get incoming data and talk outside. And so the way that has to happen is there needs to be a port exposed um, from the container to the host to the outside world. So from the container point of view, we need to specify the option ports. Now this is the first part of the colon string is the host port. And then the inside one, or the one on the right side, is the port of the container. That's great that we can talk from host to container. However, that's not the full picture. We need to be able to expose this to the outside. And to do that, Nix provides a configuration option for defining networking and specifically allowing firewalling ports. So for in this instance, we want the outside world to be able to access this container. So we specify that we want port 8090 open. Therefore, traffic coming through 8090 can go straight into our container port, and this has access to the outside world. So after deploying that previous Nix configuration, we can go ahead and SSH into our machine here. And I'm just going to show you some quick things that I use to debug my hosts that are running these containers. So since we specified that the virtualization we would be using is Podman, we can go ahead and just see what kind of containers are running. So you see here I have a couple containers running, and this is very similar to the Docker image that you would see previously. So let me just go ahead and grab one of those tags here. I'll grab this one actually. This will make my point a little better. So a great tip I like to do is sometimes you need to see what's going on in the machine. So I like to go ahead and exec in. And what that means is you can open up a shell within that running container. So it's called podmanexec.it. We provide it a command, and then we just do bin/sh. So now we are in the container. So you see here, this is my little job here. And this is particularly useful for just seeing logs or files on the machine. So for example, I have a GUnicorn log that looks particularly interesting. And I can go ahead and do that. Same thing for my Django application. Now, you don't always need to exec into the container to get information about the running instance. What this container's definition does is it launches a systemd process that basically schedules it to run. So you can use systemd commands to be able to debug it. So I'm going to go ahead and use this journalctl command. What this does is it gets the logs from a given service. And you see here, this looks a little bit different than our previous one. And you see here, what it's going to do is it just appends a podman dash. It prefixes that onto the name. So each system CTL process would be podman dash, and then the name that you give to your application. Now I'm just going to go ahead and run our journalctl command and see what gets output. So the what you're going to see is there's going to be logs about pulling down the image. So for example, if you have an issue with the container not starting, you're going to want to use this command to be able to debug that. And then as it runs, there's going to be logs that are exposed by the container. As you see, these are logs that we previously saw in our GUnicorn log. So for anything we wanted to look at regarding GUnicorn, we don't need to exec in. we can just use journalctl to view it. Some other very useful commands that I know are systemctl status, and that'll just give us a quick status instead of the whole log of our given status. Of our given, I guess, application. So if you want to quickly see if something's running, go ahead and do that. You can do something like systemctl stop to stop it, or if it's not currently running, you can go ahead and start it like that. So that's a quick rundown on how to debug these things. So that's a quick rundown on how to get started and debug containers running on NixOS. There's a decent amount of documentation that you can view here on the NixOS wiki, going over a lot of the things that I went over in much more detail. However, I just wanted a quick way for someone to get up and started using containers on NixOS. So drop a like and a follow if you like this content. If not, feel free to leave a comment.